brothers. As I said, Jesus was coming back into the world after the temptations that he experienced in the wilderness. And as he walks along the Sea of Galilee, he starts calling people to follow him. We have Simon, Peter, and Andrew, and the brothers James and John. I want you to think about their calling. Jesus simply said, "Follow me." And they did. There appears to be no questions, no doubts, no going off to tell family first. They heard the call and followed. I think that most of us don't find it quite that easy to follow Jesus. There are things that we have to get done. People, places, people to see, places to go. And it's just not that easy. There's also questions about how to follow. And we humans are really good about arguing about how to do that. Father Richard Rohr, in one of his daily devotions that I get through email, says, "It seems to me that it is a minority of people who get the true and full gospel message of Jesus, to simply follow. Instead, in today's world, we just keep worshiping Jesus and arguing over the right way to do it." Mm-hmm. He's saying there's a difference in worshiping Jesus and following Jesus. Maybe there's no arguing right here in this church. In Christian churches around the United States, though, people do not agree within their own churches about the music, about the preacher, about the building, about how to do ministry, about how to use God's money as it's donated to the churches. I might have told you this story, that I have a family member. There was have one family member whose pastor son was coming out of jail from sexually molesting a child. And the pastor was asking the congregation to invite his son back into the congregation. And there was an upheaval in the church. And another family member said, "Well, we just can't be Christian all the time." Yeah, that troubled me. That troubled me a little bit. You know, I might say, well, I can't be open, welcoming all the time, but to say I can't be Christian all the time, that happens. That happens. I read about a church that somehow ended up with a sofa up in the chancel area. It was one of those old red horsehair sofas like my grandmother used to have. People fought over the removal of this couch from the chancel area. Most folks didn't want it taken out, even though no one could remember who gave it to the church or how it got there, who donated it. A wise pastor came to this church and slowly, inch by inch, started moving the couch to the right, until finally, after weeks of this, the couch was totally removed from the chancel area and nobody missed it. Nobody missed it. When I served in Lecompton, there were these two huge, they were green boards, blackboards on one side and cork boards on the back side, and they were on wheels, and they were really large. And there were two of them in the basement. There was no need for them. There was not any longer a youth group down there, which is what they were built for. But that was it. The high school shop teacher built them, so they couldn't get rid of them. So I had them moved into the basement at the parsonage, which wasn't finished, and I used it to hide stuff behind. And nobody had a problem because they were still with the church on church property. But we got them out of the basement, so there was more room. And there's now, the food bank has fully taken over the basement of that church. But sometimes it's not easy to make changes in church. There are folks in churches who do not agree. Dare I say they argue even with other churches about the right way to do baptism. Do we sprinkle, pour, or immerse? They might argue about who receives communion. Only the baptized? Only members of that church or that denomination? Or is communion open to all people, no matter their church affiliation or their baptismal status? Can communion be seen as a means of grace, a way to become open to the moving of the Spirit in one's life? People in church, Christians, fight about who is fit to be in the pulpit. Should it only be men? Can it be women? Can it be both? They fight about who people can love. This topic is leading to a split in the denomination I belong to, and it's very, very painful. It's a theological dissension. That's what it looks like anyway. I think it's deeper than that. But I know that there's other congregations, other denominations that have had this fight or this argument already, and it's impacted them in a lot of ways. The Episcopals, the Presbyterians, the Lutherans have already done this. The Methodists, United Methodists, kind of late in the game to do something. The amazing thing is that Jesus never once says, this is the way one must do worship. This is the way one must believe or act. He never said, be sure not to include these people or those folks. He simply says, follow me, follow me. And we know that even the disciples had trouble with this. I believe that Christianity is a lifestyle. It's not a way of believing. I think that you guys do too. It's a way of being in the world that is truly simple, nonviolent. It's a shared way of life, and it's very loving. Christians have made the lifestyle Jesus offered, taught, and shared into a clever religion in order to avoid the lifestyle itself. Think about that. We do religion to avoid living the lifestyle. This is part of what Brian McLaren is talking about in the no part of Can I Stay Christian, is that there are people who become Christian, but they're still mean. He even talked about a woman named Ruth who came to him. She wasn't a Christian at the time, and she thought Christians were just horrible people. They were power hungry and mean, angry, exclusive. And over time, she became a Christian, and then she became one of those people. And as she walked out the church door, the last conversation with Brian, she said, I've become one of those people that I didn't like in the first place. And she said it as if it was a place of honor to be that way as she left the church. We do religion to avoid the lifestyle. A person can go to church and spend that 1 hour a week with Jesus and claim to be Christian. And yet that same person could be aggressive and warlike, greedy, racist, selfish, vain, and still believe that Jesus is her, his personal Lord and Savior, with no change inside, with no heart for others. Richard Rohr says that the world has no time for such silliness as this. The suffering on earth is too great. I don't know if you're familiar with the name Tom Shadyac. Shadyac is the hugely successful Hollywood director of films like Liar, Liar, The Nutty Professor, Bruce Almighty, and Patch Adams. In 2007, he moves out of his 17,000 square foot mansion into a mobile home. He begins giving away his income. The luxuries of his former lifestyle have taught him one thing: I was no happier with all of that stuff. And not long after he makes this move, he is injured. His head is injured in a bicycle accident, and he suffers from a debilitating post-concussion syndrome. His symptoms include intense, painful reactions to both light and sound, severe mood swings, and a constant ringing in his head. Shadyac tries every manner of treatment, traditional and alternative, but nothing seems to work. He suffers months of isolation and pain, and finally reaches a point where death is welcome as a release. That's what he thinks. I just need to die. I simply didn't think I was going to make it. As Shadyac wisely points out, death can be a powerful motivator. Confronting his own mortality, he asks himself, if this is it for me, if I really am going to die, what do I want to say before I go? What will be my last testament? And this question gives him the courage to talk about why he made such a drastic change in his life, as well as the courage to direct a small budget documentary titled I Am, which examines the troubling question, what's wrong with our world and what can we do about it? I bought the film and it's a wonderful film and I wish somehow we could figure out a way to show it here.
Is it on a disc?
Uh-huh.
We can show it here.
I think it's about 30 minutes, but we might do that as a Sunday session.
Yes.
Because he goes to a lot of different people from a lot of different religious traditions to talk about what's wrong with the world. And in many ways, he finds out that the world is good. But we hear so much of the bad stuff that we don't know it. Shadyac now believes the energy that we put into the world comes back. In other words, the fruit is in the seed. We can't sow an apple seed and expect to get an avocado tree. The consequences of our lives are sown in what we do and how we behave. He goes on to say, our culture does not teach us this. But what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas. If a person cheats in Vegas, the cheating comes right home with her or him. If a person cheats in Vegas, they walk home as a cheater. They lay awake at night as a cheater. They cannot escape it. The one thing that advances a society is not technology or so-called development. It's love. That's it. It's love. Now, I admit I have difficulty with the word love. I don't know if I've shared that before. In Greek, they have at least 3 words for love. Eros is love between 2 loving partners. Philia is brotherly love, and that was to the elite of the culture. And then agape, the unconditional love. Yes, agape love. I think of Native American people in Alaska who have like 200 words for snow. There's wet snow and dry snow, blowing snow, icy snow. We basically have 1 word for snow, just like we have 1 word for love. We love our kids, we love hot dogs, we love the ball games, we love our cars, we love to read, we love to work in the garden. We love snow or rain or balmy days. We love the ocean or the pool. We have that one word love to express all of this. And as I've shared with my therapist, I'm working with that word love. What is love exactly? I've found all kinds of definitions, but nothing that quite settles it for me because it's so big. It's so big. To step into love, to be able to live love, which is how Jesus wanted us to follow him, Shadyac says there is no I. That's an illusion we have to get beyond. We are, each of us, responsible for what we put out into the world. But our actions and our reactions are intertwined with the actions and reactions of others. So my greed and selfishness may very well create a lack in somebody else's life, just like my kindness could impact another's world in a really big way. Science is now proving that altruism is why we're still here. It's not the, what's the thing about the fittest?
Survival
of the fittest. It's altruism. It's empathy is in our biology. Humanity is not just survival of the fittest, but a cooperative enterprise. There was a great video I saw on my phone some time ago about animals cooperating. It's not the survival of the fittest, it's cooperating. They showed a herd of deer out in a pasture, and you could see all of their ears were twitching, and one popped up its head, and another one popped up its head, and another one, and finally one took off running for fear there was some danger, and they all ran off together, but they did it together in union. We missed that part of the story.
Like the trees.
Exactly.
Trees cooperate.
Yes, yes. Is it aspens that have the
common
it's not just
root
one
system.
tree?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's fascinating. Well, every time we get into our cars to go home, a lot of people don't understand or appreciate the thousands of cooperative acts involved in just getting home. Sort of like I talked about, leaving home and getting home is a miracle that we don't even acknowledge. The fact that someone had to build a car to certain specifications because we've agreed what safety standards are. There's someone riding next to us who's agreed to follow the speed limit and to stay in their own lane. We get our cars registered. We stop at traffic lights. It's a huge, long list of cooperation. What we see and hear about is the guy who stole the car. That's what gets in the news at night. And I believe that humanity can't go on like this. The way people treat each other, the way they look at life, the world economy, the way people think of things, the pain will come, because if we sow a seed of separation, division, disunity, and disharmony, that's exactly the kind of fruit we're going to get. And I think we've been talking about this all through Sunday school and now. I repeat what Richard Rohr said: the world has no time for such silliness as this. The suffering on earth is too great. When we do a loving thing, we put out positive energy. We feel good, we feel pleased, we feel joyful. This is how human beings are wired. So the goal, if there is a goal, is not to put out positive energy in order to get some positive energy back, like giving a compliment to get a compliment, or invite somebody to your home for supper in order to get invited to their house. The goal is to put out positive energy, to feel positive about our own lives. Think about the last positive, good thing that you did for another and how you felt about it. And I had several opportunities recently to do good for someone. The first one is somebody I didn't even know. On Facebook, it came across that there was the English teacher, the senior high English teacher at Pratt, needed 20 composition notebooks for her students. She could afford them. I bought them. There was no sense in her putting out her own money, because I know she's buying other things. And I'm pretty sure she could afford it because of the little red convertible she came to pick them up in at my house. But I didn't buy just the 20, I bought 40. They were like 50 cents a piece, so it cost me, what?
20 bucks.
20 bucks. 20 bucks. It was no big deal for me, but it felt so good. And about 2 weeks later, I got this packet on my front porch of thank you notes from all the students telling me how they're using their journals. The teachers having them use it, personal journals. So I did this for a Pratt teacher, and I thought, well, my daughter's a teacher. So I contacted her and I said, what kind of supplies do you need for your classroom? She said, our supplies are all taken care of because it's a community event. They raise money or get supplies and backpacks for every student in the school system in South Central High School, middle school, and grade school. But she said, do you want to pay half of a telescopic microscope? And I kind of laughed because I'm thinking, we're talking $100, $200. I didn't know. And she sent me the Amazon ad. They're $39.99.
Oh.
And she was seeking grants. She bought 2 with money from the school, and she's seeking a grant to buy 6 more. And I sent her $20 to buy half a telescopic microscope. And that felt kind of good. Then I remembered her best friend Jennifer is a 4th grade teacher in Lindsborg. So I contacted Jennifer. Jennifer has a running wish list on Amazon, which I think is a great thing for teachers to have. Mm-hmm. And I picked a book and something else, and then a package of markers, 24 markers that are called Colors of the World, I think. They're just colors of skin colors. Mm-hmm. And Jennifer read, let me see if I can find this. She, I didn't write it in here. Jennifer read a book to her 4th grade students about a little girl who wanted to change the language about skin color in her school. Everybody else in her class was peach colored, but she had dark skin. And Jennifer said that was a perfect opportunity to bring out these Colors of the World markers. And she said she had all these, I only bought 1 box, but there's 24. And she said that the kids just were fascinated looking at these markers and seeing what color they were. Because, yeah, most of them were peach, but they were different colors of peach. Yeah. And she said it was a great learning experience and diversity for them. I felt good. I was glad that the teachers all felt good about my helping, but that's where the work is. That's why the true revolution is a personal revolution, putting good into our own lives, which puts good out into the world. We're all in this together. I'm preaching to the choir here, I know that. We are the ones who can help bring an end to the division that we're experiencing today in our homes, in our churches, in our towns, in the nation, in the world. We are called daily, moment by moment, by Jesus to follow me, like Peter, Andrew, James, and John, and the many other followers of Jesus. As we interact with others, as we think our own thoughts, as we live our lives, always, always we are called to follow Jesus. Not to worship him or to prove our way of doing church is better, but to love. In Matthew 22, Jesus is asked, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." And I came across two quotes that I wanted to share this last week. The first one is by George Saunders, and it says, "Find out what makes you kinder, what opens you up, and brings out the most loving, generous, and unafraid version of you, and go after those things as if nothing else matters." I love that. And then the other one is by Anonymous. It says, "The world doesn't want to be saved. It wants to be loved, and that's how we save it." I thought that was pretty profound. Now, I love words. I love new words, old words, searching for just the right word I want to use. I was challenged in a video that I watched this week about the difference between gratitude and gratefulness. Gratitude, I was told, is something after the fact that we look back on and appreciate. Are you familiar with gratitude journals where you, at the end of the day, you write 5 things that you're grateful for? The idea is to, stop at the end of the day and look back. Gratefulness, on the other hand, according to this particular speaker, is being aware in the moment of surprises, of little miracles, those little or ordinary things that happen, like sunrises, sunsets, a dandelion growing up through a crack in the sidewalk, seeing a baby find their hands for the first time, or a small child's first encounter with snow, an unexpected cool breeze on a warm day, a quick kiss from a spouse or a grandchild. I want to show you 2 moments of gratefulness that I captured on my camera. The first one is a muffin. I was so surprised to open the pack of English muffins, and there was this muffin with a heart on the front of it. Can you see that okay, Joyce?
Yeah.
It was just a delightful surprise, a delightful thing for me to find. And then several years ago, when I was still out at the retreat center, between the main house and the bunkhouse, there was a rock walkway, and it had rained, and the sun came out, and it dried off the sidewalk, except for this one spot on the sidewalk.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, I had a friend, the same time I was pulling these pictures up, sent me a picture of a hamburger bun from McDonald's. It was a regular hamburger bun, but there was flour on the top of the bun. It was in the shape of a heart. It was so cool to see these little surprises. I love that these are hearts. I collect heart rocks in a basket. I have a whole basket full of heart-shaped rocks. Some people have given them to me, most of them I found. And I have a computer file full of things that look like hearts. There's cloud shapes like hearts, this hamburger bun. There were 2 swans whose necks and heads came together that look like a heart. I have a photo of 2 white cats that are laying down together, and when their backs are together, there's a heart shape that's made. It's so fun to find these things. Now, we don't have any men with us here this morning, but I did wonder how men might relate to some of these things that I mentioned. I think children and grandchildren would be good examples for men to be relatable. I also recently watched a number of videos of baseball plays. Like there was a a bouncing ground ball to second. The second base player was able to stop the ball and flip it to the shortstop who had gotten to second base, put the guy out, threw it out to first, and had a double play. It was just such a miraculous thing. People can do such incredible things. I have a son-in-law who is a farmer, and his awareness of the surprises out in the land is just remarkable. It's wonderful to hear. We are called to follow Jesus, and without quarrels and doubts, questions and arguments. It's all about love. It's all about love. Amen. Amen.